This is the pipe I'm using. This is 4-inch sewer pipe, and it is thin wall. Also, some other tools I've got are sandpaper to knock off some rough edges. I've got my dibber here that I'll use to widen the holes, and I'll show you that. Tape measure to measure various things. My propane plumber's torch to heat the PVC to the shape I want. And then my roto zip with the cutting blade on it. I took those 10-foot sections and I cut them to 32 inches, which is the difference between the lower and upper rails on the Vertical FAWN. One piece of pipe here I've chosen to mark it at 4, 16, and 28 inches. That way I'll get 12-inch spacing between the plants. How I align these various planting pockets around a round tube is I took a piece of nylon cord, and the knot is where I put one dot, and then the opposite side is another dot. And if you look here, you can see that there's 2 on this area and there's 3 on that one. So when you go to the dots, you have to go 180 off to get the 3, and then once you do that, there's a black dot for halfway in between each one of those, and that's the one that has 2 on it. So the knot, and opposite the knot at 180 are the 3, and the halfway point mark on both sides are the 2 on each side. Took the roto zip here and marked, or cut where I'd marked. Made short work of that and did all 3 locations. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little propane torch here, and I'm going to warm this whole area back and forth pretty fast just to heat it up where it becomes pliable. If you stay in any one location too long, it'll yellow and then blacken. So you have to do it very carefully. And then I will use the dibber, the other thing I showed you, and insert it and make an opening for a plant. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, once it gets hot enough, this becomes very pliable, and you can just stick the dibber in there and then you push downwards on the handle and it'll lift this out and push this in down here, and it'll create a little opening like that. And then all you do is you take the spray bottle and you squirt it, because it's hot, and it'll set it. It'll set it in that shape. Alright, that's the inside looking down. And what I made here was, there's 10 total. Each one is spaced 12 inches apart. And that is one vertical stack. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. Now, I didn't come up with this pipe planting scheme, these towers. I've seen many examples, and I can't give credit to one specific individual on this because I've seen it so much. I pulled it from memory and did this, but I'm using it in a different way than probably anything you've ever seen. The tower is mounted on a 12-inch board, foam board, and like I said, it's 32 inches tall, and it comes almost to the tip here. Right now it's not got any dirt in it, but I'm going to put some in that and I'll be back. Okay, I got this idea from the carrot tubes, the failed carrot tubes that were sitting right here. These are the 3 screw holes. Alright, what I'm making here is an inspiration from Dan, and he's over in Yorkshire, England, and he shows carrots. So what I'm doing here is trying to simplify the carrot growing process. This is a 1.5 inch PVC tube, and I simply drill one little hole in the end. Next thing I did was tie some tomato twine to it. Really, any string will do. Alright, you may remember when I planted these some time back. Those are my carrots, and there's just a lot of them, super densely packed in this little tote here. I think it's a 10-gallon tote, and I'm going to pull 3 carrots out of here to use in this experiment, and I can't do that in film, so I'll be back. Okay, these are the 3 I've chosen. This one broke off the tip while I was pulling it, so I'm not going to use that one. And these are actually growing quite well in that tub for being so extremely crowded. But as you can see, this is a carrot, and I don't know really too much at all about growing carrots. I don't know if yanking them up and then trying to do something with them even works, but we're going to give it a go. If it doesn't work, you know what? You're not going to get to see it. So I'm going to put these carrots in and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, here you see I've attached the wick, the round wick, to the green foliage of the carrot. I'm thinking that the nutrient will wick to the carrot itself and then just kind of flow down the carrot, but if not, maybe the extra tomato twine strings will do it. Here's the other 2 in their thing, in their tube, the carrot tube, and I need to hurry up and get these in here so they don't dry out. Make sure I give the best chance to succeed. So there's my carrot tube experiment. I've got the round wicks sitting in the gutter, and I've got it taped off up here to try to keep it from drying out, and I have it taped on the bottom, but as you can see it can drip out if it needs to be. And what I'm hoping will happen is it'll continue to go from here, the higher area, drain till it hits the carrot and just drip down slowly. But if it drips too fast, like it's already seeming to drip pretty good, I don't know, we may have to. Anyway, it can't drip too fast and it can't drip too slow, because if it drips too slow it's going to dry out and the carrot's going to die. So we'll see what happens. That I tried that, and I noticed that there was plenty of wicking going on. So what I did was I took, this is insulated on the bottom underneath, and I took a piece of poly tubing, the 1/2 inch tubing here, to keep the light out, and I routed it down to the bottom here. You can see right there that the wicks are coming out of the bottom there, and I'm going to put these wicks on top of the soil. So what will happen is there'll be a constant wicking from up here in this platform down to here, hopefully soak through the entire thing, and not only will it wick from the bottom, but it'll wick from the top, and grow some vegetables that way. We'll give it a trot. Okay, I was going to tie it with some tomato twine, but I noticed that when you put this through here, you have to encase the wick and in something when it's exposed to sun, or it'll get a lot of algae all over it. So I noticed that when I put this through, and it's got a cap on it here, that this thing is pretty dang sturdy. So there's no need to tie it. Just run this piece of poly tubing straight in with the wick, and that'll stabilize it. It's kind of messy right now, but that's kind of be expected. Now I'll do 2 more and plant them up. Here are the 3 towers finished, and the first one right here, that is various herbs, like 8 different types of herbs, and the next 2 are Adriana and buttercrunch lettuce. The tomatoes are coming along nicely, as you can see. I had a thunderstorm the other day, so we got another dousing. Not good. But things are growing nicely, and I'm really happy with that. Over here, this is where my peas were. Peas and carrots. As you can see, my peas are no longer there. I was getting overwhelmed. They were growing way out into the walking area. Plus, they were starting to fizzle towards the end and have various growth tip growth. So I decided to go ahead and remove them, and I moved in some summer squash. Here are the strawberries, and this is one of the leaves compared to my hand. It's pretty good size. They seem to be liking this pretty good, but they're already throwing runners. You can see several places where there's fruit, and every day I come out here and I snack on these strawberries. They are good, really, really good. And I've got more that needs to be eaten up. More coming along. You can see over there. And so I think this is a pretty good idea, but next time I think they'll do even a little better if I plant them in those towers. That's my thoughts. If they grow the lettuce well, then they're going to go, look at that berry, they're going to go into the towers. Along this back wall here, I've got a whole bunch of different kinds of squash, and I'm going to take this squash and train them up, cutting the leaves off like I did last year, and hopefully have a pretty good production of different types of squash. On this row, this is my tomato, Succeed, and it has various types of growth, but luckily I have found at least one here that is producing similarly to last year. A little bigger trusses, not very fast, indeterminate growth. And here's one similar, but it doesn't have the trusses like the other one. And then you got some over here that are taller. They're not flowering quite as much. They are putting on some tomatoes. There, you can see one right there. But we're going to see how that goes. Hopefully one of these I can collect seed for an F3. And but I like the growth pattern of a couple of the plants so far. These tomatoes are Mossvich, and they're supposed to be an open pollinated, fairly consistent type, similar to greenhouse tomatoes. They produce 4 or 5 on a cluster, fairly consistent, and so far looking good with these. Here's the potatoes, and I've cut some of them off, trying some different experiment with those. I had put some in little pots before, and they just kind of fizzled, so I'm going to try something a little different. Something, as you can see, has been chewing on these. If anybody knows what they are, I'd appreciate you letting me know. But I've sprayed it again, and I'd sure like to be able to grow potatoes, but if they're such attractors of such pests in the greenhouse, then Either I'm going to have to make sure the screen's up tight, which it's not now, or not grow them again in the greenhouse. We will see. Yet to be determined. This is Brent in the greenhouse, signing off.